Welcome back to another episode of the Keen Talks podcast. This is installment number 2 of the Realtor of the Month. So today is April 23rd. This is the Realtor month for the month of April. We have Mike Lyons on the podcast. He has been a Realtor for pretty much exactly 30 years this year. It's incredibly impressive. He's full of knowledge, full of experience, and what the past 30 years has taught him. So I've actually gotten to know him over the last couple of months since we started doing some stuff together, and we actually have an office right next to him. So it's been great getting to know him. He's a great guy. He's a great agent. So we're excited to release this for you guys. We'll be putting it out on Instagram, the 4 questions that we ask everybody, as well as the full podcast here on everywhere you get podcasts, Spotify, Apple Music, and then on YouTube also with the video. So again, if you have anybody you want to see on here, send us a message. Send us with guest ideas of who you might suggest people being on. I think we're doing one in a couple weeks from my buddy who's got a really good realtor that we're going to have on. Also, if you have any feedback, we'd love to hear any questions that you want to get answered. So give us a like, give us a follow, and we'll move on here with the next Realtor of the Month. Thanks. Well, welcome into the next episode of, what month are we in? April. The April installment of Realtor of the Month podcast on Keen Talks. We have Mr. Mike Lyons here with us. You've been a realtor for how long?
This year, Josh, is year 30.
Year 30.
Since 1994.
So I was born in 1996.
Oh, darn it. I knew
Yeah.
you were going to go there.
Yeah. So you've been being a realtor for longer than I've been alive, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But that also means you have an insane amount of experience. You've lived through 2008, obviously, the big crash. Was there anything before that was as big as 2008, or is
Not
that
as big? No, that was the biggest event.
Yeah.
In my 30 years for sure. Toughest, biggest.
Yeah. What was that like going through something like that? I mean, obviously, I'm sure it was hard. I'm sure it hit you in some capacities.
Right. Felt it every day. We had 4 young kids, so 8 down to 1. So that was the biggest thing. It was just not succeeding wasn't an option. So you had to
figure
do
it
short
out.
Sales. You had to figure out whatever it took to get through that couple of years or more.
So were you at that point? I guess give us a little quick rundown on your business. Are you in the investing space at all, or is it all realtor?
That was primarily retail, what I would call retail business.
Yep.
Yeah.
So when you say short sales, that would be you going and finding short sales for your clients, or that's where you'd have to buy them at?
We had both. Josh, we were definitely doing short sales buyers, taking buyers to foreclosures and short sales, which was easier than working them from the listing side. The listing side is what I really had to learn how to interact with the banks and get through that process, which was frustrating. It was a nightmare at that time.
Yeah.
We had flooded basements. We were trying to put utilities on in our name to keep houses from flooding. Banks didn't care. They couldn't keep all the utilities on, so that was on us. So, but no, many of our sellers were needing to short sell, so we were finding the short sales.
Wow.
And working them.
So like Carmel, Westfield right now, average price point 400-ish, somewhere in there, low fours.
Yeah.
At that point in time, where was your average price point? Do you remember?
Boy, me as an agent, I was probably more in the 250 range.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's still pretty high.
2008.
Yeah.
In that area.
And right before the crash, was it still around 4, and then it went down again?
No, I wouldn't say it was that high.
We
were probably still in the low 3s at that point for the average home.
Okay.
When I got into the business in '94, it was great when our listings would pop up over 100. I mean, we had 99.9, 119.9.
Yeah.
Those were good price. That was the average, I would say, more back in '94.
And you in '94, if we could do a walk down memory lane, there was no like e-sign. So I've been a realtor I've been a realtor for 2 years. So I've walked into the world of technology and real estate. So everything's e-sign, Zillow, most buyers, that you set them up on searches, they look at it maybe, but usually they're finding stuff on Zillow.
Right.
You're opening the door for them. But being a realtor in 94 was like the amendment needs to be signed and submitted by tonight at 5, which means you're probably driving to your buyer,
driving to the other office to drop it off? I mean,
We did. It was a lot of driving. It was driving 45 minutes to get to an office in Greenfield or something to drop things off. But it was, older folks will laugh at this. It was fax machines that were like onion skin type paper. It wasn't even decent 20-pound paper. Just reels and reels of this onion skin paper. Like a ticker tape on a receipt. Yeah. Muddy, hard to read. Hey, send me that again. It's been faxed 3 times. I can't see it. I can't read it anymore. My parents started before me, so I remember riding around in my dad's car with keys for every listing, like on the floorboard of the vehicle. And you had to go get keys to show a house in a lot of cases. It wasn't even a lockbox. You'd go grab the key from an office, go show the home, take the key back.
So one showing could be
2
3
or 3 back and forth. And the thought of showing 10 homes like we do today.
There's no chance.
You went to 10 different offices to get a key and 10 different offices to take it back. It was brutal.
Yeah. I mean, nowadays, I'll be out with a client and we'll look at one and they're like, oh, I also saw this one on the way over. Can we go see it? And it's like, you just go on Broker Bay, book a showing. Hopefully it's an automatic confirmation if it's vacant. If not, maybe you wait 20 minutes, but then you pop over, open the door, see it, it's so
different.
It's very fast. And that's what
lets us do a lot more.
Yeah.
When it used to be an agent, a multi-million-dollar producer was a huge status. You eclipsed $1 million or you eclipsed $2 million, and you had arrived because you just couldn't sell that many homes, and price points weren't what they are today.
Yeah.
But it was a lot more work. It was a lot more it was different work. It was busy, time-consuming work.
Yeah.
That we've had, that now we have efficiencies for.
Yeah.
Major efficiencies.
It's an interesting conversation, I would say, too. I think I talked about this with my dad, a year or so, whenever I did the podcast with him. But similar thing, he's a financial advisor. And the work was just very different back then. But I think, we talk about the efficiencies of being able to do one task, but now you're kind of expected to be able to do, 20 tasks in a day versus just accomplishing that one because it's so quick and easy.
Right.
Like your days, it's not like you have Excel, you can type in everything really fast, copy, paste, all this stuff. It used to be like graph, like you're writing stuff down, you're doing the numbers manually. There's just an expectation that you can get through stuff so much faster, because I've heard the argument that people say our generation or younger generation is lazy or, doesn't work as hard because you have all these things available to you. And I would make the argument, I think that's for sure true. I think there's eggs in every basket. There's the people who are lazy and there's people who are not in every generation. That's not a generational thing. That's just a people thing. But, when you think about hard work nowadays, it may just look different than what it looked like 20 years ago because you have a computer and your hard work is more mental versus physical versus driving around versus...
When it's still hard work to find those efficiencies and feed those efficiencies. I think the younger folks have it figured out that older folks maybe didn't. The school, work, and then enjoy. I say it every day. I think younger folks have figured out how to enjoy, how to find a balance and leverage those efficiencies so you do have a life before you're 60 and retire. You factor those things in right now. A good balance. So I enjoy that. I have a lot to learn from younger people, really.
Well, that's a great attitude to have. I feel like most people who have been in the business your amount of time would not have that same approach to it, which is sad. I mean, I'm sure when they were coming into it, they had great ideas and people above them didn't listen to it, and maybe you just forget over time, how that felt. But there's also the other side of it. I think a lot of my generation comes in with like I know what I'm doing. I don't need to listen to anybody, or like the Instagram model of I'm going to drive around in a van for 20 hours and work 10 hours a week, and then be successful. Like there's the argument for every different variation, there has to be hard work at some point.
No one size fits all by a long shot. But, and I love it when a younger person wants advice and wants to learn. We definitely still have things to share and to help each other back and forth.
I would say the thing that I'm probably the worst on when it comes to being a realtor is like the follow up and the like cold to hot nurturing of a client. A lot of my clients, like I said, it's just quick. Like it comes in, hey, I'm ready, let's go, we close it. It's not, hey, I have a relationship with you, and or say it's not a friend and family. Say it's like a lead from internet or whatever. I'm gonna talk to you and follow up with you for a year and then get your business a year later, which is something that I would say probably every successful team or realtor has to do at some point. And you have to have that backlog of, leads and generation.
Yeah, and you just have to treat it the way you want to be followed up with, because that's it is one of our biggest faults or flaws, blind spots is that person that's not ready to transact this minute gets put on the back burner because there's so much going on right now.
Yep.
But if you have them on a good system to keep in touch, how often do you want to hear from your insurance agent or your medical professional, whatever it is? Just how do I like to be treated and responded and checked on? Do I want somebody checking on me from my insurance office every week?
No.
Do I want to hear from them quarterly? Sure, if they've got something different or new or a suggestion for me. So that's what we try to do, is to see what the timing is and kind of keep that cadence to a degree.
Yeah. So what do you guys do as far as, I know obviously, so for some context for people outside of us, we're in Centennial right now. You guys market a lot to Centennial, the neighborhood of Centennial. But what does your marketing strategy look like for, real estate or realtor work?
Sure. Well, and kind of back to just keeping in touch with those people that aren't ready to transact in that immediately. It's just constant letting people know that you're here. Mm-hmm. You want to be the choice for them when they do surface or do have a need. Again, people don't move every year, even every 5 years anymore. So you just need to be the first person on their mind. So whether that's direct mail and email and just check-in phone calls, that type of thing, we just want to be. We'd like to have that number one space in their mind share. Yeah.
Do you do like MailChimp monthly email stuff like that you send out?
We do very, very much so.
Yeah. That's all that stuff that's been on like my list of, things to accomplish. But then you look back, like you were saying, of the immediate need versus the long-term success and need. Like, how do you split up your days upon, like when I think I'm going to go sit down and write a blog or write an email worth sending out to someone, I want it to have some weight to it. I want it to be valuable.
Right.
And that takes however long, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to put together something worth sending out. I guess it's just time blocking and responsibility.
It is.
But
it's time blocking, knowing that somebody needs to hear from you. So it's worth writing that, hour-long article.
Yeah.
I had somebody call at the end of last week that, shame on me, it was not my buyer. It was somebody else's buyer. I had the listing, and they ended up on a drip campaign and called. It was like 12 years ago. He says, I get your email communication. I had lost track of him. It wasn't my client to follow up with. And he says, you had me on an email list. I think of you every month, and now I need something. And
wow.
It had been about 12 years. So,
wow.
So you can't undervalue just some sort of lever to keep in touch.
Yeah, they think Realtor, they think Mike Lyons, the Lyons team, something like that.
Yeah.
So 1994, 2024, that's 30 years. I guess on the dot.
Yeah, this summer will be the 30th for me.
Wow. At 30 years... just give us a recap maybe, or, what you've learned over 30 years. Is it, now you're at the highest point of your career, or now you've intentionally, brought it back down because of where you're at? I'm not necessarily wanting to be the guy for 30 years. What I tell my wife is like, if we can get month to month, like that's my goal. It's like, let's just make it another month. Right. And then not in the sense of I want to be like month to month paycheck, but more of like, I love doing this and I love owning my own business and doing all this stuff. And if I get to enjoy like doing the podcast and doing stuff that I enjoy doing, as long as I can get us to next month and our kids are taken care of, like that's the goal. So I do want to grow the businesses, but in 30 years, do I want to be like running around with my head cut off, like chasing all this stuff, or do I want to kind of bring it back and just do, 20 transactions? That's all I need for this year. Where are you kind of at with all of that?
It's interesting. I never had an end in mind time-wise. I had hoped, like you're saying, to have the freedom to do, make more choices, do the things that I want to do, and shy away from some things that I don't want to chase and pursue. So I've been able to reach that level. We still do things that we don't necessarily want to do, but we all do. But now I've been able to structure it so I have more time built in to do more of what I want to do. But I definitely don't have I want to be done at 60 or 65. As long as I'm enjoying it, I'm relevant, I can produce, can help younger folks, with their careers, that type of thing. I think it'll just morph. I just go where it takes me at this point.
Yeah. if you could, is it possible to even pull out like one big arching theme over 30 years or a learned lesson, or is it so, I know how real estate is every day, it can be a completely different animal. Yeah. So, it's a hard question, but it
is. And to keep it more concise than an hour answer, you meet people where they are. Everybody's different. Every transaction is different. Every home is different. Mm-hmm. So there's no pattern that we can follow. I learned things here on year 30. I learned things every day, every week, how to do something better or made a mistake that I can correct. Like I said, you meet the people where they are. We see people at their very best of times, happy things, mm-hmm. getting married, need a house, need a bigger home with mm-hmm. a baby. We see people in death and divorce and illness and financial hardship. So we see mm-hmm. people at their very best times and very worst, and we just try to pick them up. Support them, get them from A to B, and so that seems to be the overarching theme for me is just treat people the way you want to be treated. So, kind of going back to the golden rule. It's really simple. Yeah. It's not easy. It's just really, really simple though.
Yeah.
Treat the transaction like it's a family member, like you would work for your parent or your
mm-hmm.
sibling, that kind of thing, and then that makes a smooth, that makes a successful transaction.
Yeah. And the other realtors too. I feel like that might be a lost thing these days, is even in my short 2 years that I've been in it, I've had some interactions with realtors that were dumbfounding. It's insane the way that they communicate, whether you're in a transaction or not, just the way they talk or the way that I feel like there is a level of, if you've been in the business for longer and you've reached a certain amount of success, you look down on newer agents or whatever it might be. And I think there's probably some realism to that of like, they don't know as much as you for mm-hmm. sure, but that doesn't mean I can't fill out the contract or right. that you don't deserve any respect. There's just an innate level of, we're in the same industry. At the end of the day, like, yes, you're working for your client, I'm working for my client, and yes, I want my seller to get the most of the money that they can, and I want my buyer to get a quote unquote good deal.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we're both trying to close a transaction. We're both trying to service our clients and, you're a vehicle to do what they want you to do.
We all want the same thing.
Yeah.
You have four pieces. Immediately you have four pieces: a buyer agent, seller agent, and a buyer and a seller.
Mm-hmm.
All four people want the same thing.
Yep.
They want it to look the way they want it to look and feel, but at the end you want a successful closing and seller moves, buyer moves in.
Mm-hmm.
So all four groups want the same thing. I don't like to see a transaction become adversarial.
Yeah.
That would be a big. You're touching on it. Just there's enough business for everybody. Yep. We're not fierce competitors. You're going to see these people in the course of 30 years or 5 years or 10 years. You're going to see these agents time and time again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so important. It's not a fight to the death. It's not a my side wins, your side loses. It's a win-win. For all four sides, the two parties and the two agents. That's what we strive for.
Yeah.
And then you're excited to see them show your properties and see their name on a purchase agreement again.
Yep.
And they're excited to see you.
Yep.
That's so important. And we overlook it. Because again, it doesn't need to be adversarial. There's just so many great agents out there. And to your point, the newer agent, you don't look down to them. I was 21 in 1994 and I didn't know anything. Mm-hmm. So we all started there. So there's no need to hold the 30 years or the 10 or 20 years over somebody new. They have just as much to offer. They just need a little bit of time on task.
Yeah. And I would say, I think it was the first contract that I wrote as a realtor for somebody else. I'm trying to remember if that was the correct. I had bought some houses as an investor before, and we did, contracts, whether or not they were perfectly like the Indiana contract or whatever. But I think it was the first one I wrote for somebody as a buyer. The first offer, the agent, I can't even remember his name. He called me and was like, I don't think you meant to fill out. I think I'd put like the lender fees was paid by the seller or something. He's like, I don't necessarily think you meant to fill it out this way. Right. And he walked me through it, and that was fantastic. I was like, I really, truly appreciate. I don't think we even ended up going under contract.
Okay.
I was like, I do appreciate, because the brokerage I came into, it was based out of Greenwood, and I was still working at W-2, so I was kind of doing it on the side.
Okay.
So I didn't have like a team leader that I would send my contracts to and they'd review and then send it back or whatever.
And you appreciated that kind of treatment.
For sure,
you know,
yeah.
Like, hey, I made a mistake. You
Yeah.
know, we've all left a box unchecked
Yep.
or checked the wrong one in haste because
Yep.
we're going 900 miles an hour.
Yep.
So, yeah, you appreciate that agent that, again, lifts you up and picks you
Yep.
up versus
has a little
knocking
grace
you down and
Yeah.
saying, hey, I'm going to take advantage of this or,
Yep.
or I'm going to use it to my advantage. It's, show a little bit of grace.
Yeah. I mean, maybe luckily it was because his seller would have netted less because of the lender fees.
It was not an error in his favor.
It was an error on that would have hurt his client. So maybe
Right.
that definitely probably played a part into it a
Right.
little bit. But yeah, I mean, outside of, Realtor work, what has 30 years, personal life, what do you do? Because Realtor work is, I mean, I find it hard, it's weekends, it's nights.
Yeah.
Taking a vacation is, there's not really a vacation, I don't think.
Right.
You take your computer with you. I take my computer with me everywhere I go. Even if I go 5 minutes down the road to a restaurant, typically I'm taking my backpack just in case I need to check something really fast. So you think about
I'm
going
old enough that I do not do that.
Okay, gotcha.
But I understand.
Yeah.
Jonah does.
Yeah.
My son Jonah does.
Yeah. So I mean, like when you think about going on vacation, do you just kind of like let all your active clients know and hey, I'm checking out for a week, or do you say, I've got my assistant who will help facilitate as much as she can? Or
A good combination of both. I've
Yeah.
got a great support team here that lets me get out of town or lets me go do something for the day. It used to, back in the day, it was a school field trip, something like
Yeah.
that was always important to me.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to pick up the phone during that time.
Yeah.
But it's a good blend. We take trips where I'm definitely able to answer my call, answer my phone, and like to, and then get that person quickly routed to the person that can help them. I don't dig in then and start pulling things up and working on it. Then I get them to somebody that can help them while I'm gone.
Yeah.
But my family grew up knowing that this is what I did, and you're on call. I not to take away anything from the medical profession. We're not doctors, but we're doctors for real estate.
Yeah.
And you're on call. I'm not proud of it, but darn it, more than ever, it seems like we have transactions on major holidays. You used to think that maybe you had Christmas and Easter and some of the civil holidays were protected, but it's not anymore. Real estate is always happening. It's more worldwide than ever, and to stay plugged in, you have to stay plugged in. If my home's on the market or that offer comes in on Christmas Eve, that's when it's happening, and it's detrimental to everybody to say, let's put this on pause until Monday morning when Christmas Eve is Friday night. You just can't do that. So somebody's moving, and it's important right then. So we work things through holidays and thick and thin, busy and slow times. It's you always have to work it.
Yeah.
So we're on call. And if somebody's basement's flooding and they call me,
Yeah.
Their basement's flooded. Again, it doesn't matter that it's Christmas Eve. They're experiencing something that's super time sensitive and urgent to them. So you jump on it.
It is funny that, people view realtors as their solution for kind of everything sometimes, even though, like, I can probably show you 9 times out of 10 a realtor doesn't know the answer, or at least I guess I should caveat that I would say a lot of realtors don't have construction experience or don't have that any kind of that knowledge. So the thought of calling a 21-year-old just out of licensing school to ask about a flooding house, and they're like, I literally have no idea how to help you with that. And maybe they know somebody they can call, but it's just funny to think that people call realtor. Oh, it's a house. Let me call my realtor and see if he's got, and a lot of times we can point you in the right direction. You've got your construction entity that you can take care of a lot of those things with. And I've got, contractors that I work with to push people to, but it is funny. You're kind of like a one-stop shop where it's like, hey, my house has got this issue. I know we bought it with you 2 years ago. Or like a contract. Was this on the contract? When this was done? All that kind of stuff. It's just
you're a consultant. You hope to be a consultant for life.
Yeah,
and I love that. That never frustrates me. And the more random, the better, because it means that I've penetrated that person's mind share that much more. Somebody will call and ask where this neighborhood votes or something like that. I said, boy, that is so not in my
wheelhouse.
But I enjoy finding the answers or getting them to the right person. So now I love that, because again, I like to be that resource for as much information as I can possibly answer. If I can shorten somebody's learning curve or get them in the right direction, that's valuable to me.
So you guys, I know I mentioned it briefly, but you have Inside Out, your construction entity or home remodeling. I don't know how you guys label it perfectly, but When did you start that again?
It's been about 10 years.
Okay.
And it was born out of the fact that we were referring people to, again, we loved referring people to the right contractors to prep their home or post sales so they could improve their home.
Mm-hmm.
And it got harder and harder to find people that were on time, were priced well, would respond to phone calls. So we kind of looked at each other and said, we could do this. I'm not handy, so I knew I needed talented people, but we said we could run the backside of this and get people to where they need to be and get people the help they need. So I don't know how we got through home inspections before that.
Yeah.
You were at the mercy of that handyman, handy person that was maybe booked out for a month and you closed in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So that was a constant battle to get our homes taken care of. So we said, we're going to create something that'll take care of our homes. And we weren't looking beyond that, but then it grew into a company that could serve the general public. So that's been rewarding, and they still bail us out on a regular basis. Like I said, hey, the basement's flooding, or the lockbox, the door won't unlock or lock. The Inside Out helps us on a daily basis. But, and again, they help not only our clients but now the general public.
So 10 years, how long of a runway was it? I mean, how many people, what's the personnel look like right now?
Right now they run with about 12 to 14 people in the field, 2 estimators and 2 administrative staff, and then a co-owner with myself.
Yep.
So we started out with 2 or 3 people, and started out with 1 person in the beginning, and that was really about 7 years ago. We went into our first remote office from our main office. And that person's, cut their teeth on just improving our own building until we sent them out to the public. And we were learning at the same time what their capabilities were and what we could tackle, what we couldn't, what we knew we needed to stay away from, or bring in an expert or somebody that had more experience. And then we just started, growing from there, 1 person at a time. And
because I'm very interested in this, like starting something like that. But then I think we were talking offline before, just that business, there's a lot of things you can do as far as businesses and things maybe you'd be interested in going to, but it may not be the right time or maybe the right avenue to go into. But when I think of a 10-year runway to where you guys are now, was that a passive runway where it was kind of like this, we're taking it as it comes and we'll add someone, this is growing, okay, we add someone, this is growing, we add someone, or was it an intentional, we don't want it to be that big, or kind of any thought to that process?
It wasn't as intentional as it could have been. We did just put fires out and bring people in as we needed the help. So we were hiring out of need. So it wasn't as structured as it could have been in hindsight. But again, we were just trying to service our client base. So we weren't looking beyond to serving the public and what that would look like.
Yeah.
But it nearly drained our real estate team. It did. It took so much to get it off the ground that our business suffered. We took our focus off of selling homes for a while, for a couple of years probably, while we got it up and going. So it was hard on our real estate business. It was there to serve our real estate team, and it ended up being a detriment for a while. But now we've paid those dues, and it's nothing but an asset.
Do you think that was because you were spending time on it? I mean, was Charlie always
No, Charlie was newer.
Okay.
Charlie's been 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
So I was running it with my office manager, Holly.
Gotcha.
And again, it was just such a drain on time and finances, resources, that we weren't paying enough attention to the real estate business.
Yeah.
So it was there to service it, but the tail was wagging the dog for a while.
Yeah.
So we've gotten it back under control, but we did lose focus. And that's true in anything. Maybe you have a baby or a life change or a hobby that takes you away. I mean, you can take your eye off the ball, and real estate's such a momentum business that it's a low barrier to get in, but it takes a while to get that momentum rolling. And seems like whether that's a downturn or an annual thing, whatever it is, if you let that momentum stop, that big boulder stops rolling down the hill, it's hard to get it started again.
Yeah.
It's just really tough to get it going, but once it's going, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's no stopping it.
Yeah, and a lot of people talk about, whether it's investors. I've heard a lot of investors talk about it, the roller coaster of real estate, or investors talking about realtors because I'm a part of different masterminds, and realtors come on. They're like, a lot of investors bag on realtors, because they say that their job is worthless. But just saying like, oh, you get a commission, then you celebrate, and then you have to go find another one, then you get a commission. Like, it's just kind of to avoid that roller coaster, you know, like you were saying, it once when you let it go down to the bottom, you know, we just started doing a tiny bit of marketing. I really haven't done any marketing before as a realtor. It's been kind of just natural work that's come in, which has been great. But in order to grow, I feel like we need to start doing stuff like that.
Right.
But you know, we got a lead. Amy was just telling me we had a lead coming over the weekend where it's like, I'm looking to buy in November, you know, and you think about the timeline for that. That's what, 5 months away, 6 months away, which is great. Like, it's great to have a prospective client then, but if you need money now, it's like real estate may not be the answer for that. Being a realtor it can be very lucrative, but if you don't put the time in and you're not actively, you know, like we were talking about earlier, nurturing your leads, you know, you can have people who are looking next year I'm interested in selling because we're going to be, you know, changing this, blah, blah, blah. It's not always I want to buy a house, let's go look, you know, or I'm ready, or you might have to build their credit, or you might have to, you know, whatever it may be.
You can't just turn up the intensity.
Yeah.
Hey, things are a little slower.
Like, I'm ready. Just because you're ready to make money
Right.
doesn't mean everyone else is.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's why, for me personally, I don't want realtor work to be my only income, because I don't want to experience those lows as hard. You know, the property management allows us to you know, cave out those lows, and it may also cave out the highs, because I'm also spending time managing properties where I could be just going, you know, 100% realtor and just trying to chase that all the time, you know.
But you're trading stability. So
That's
and you have that luxury to create it the way you want to create it.
Yeah, and I think for our family, you know, for my wife, that definitely brings some peace to her, knowing that there's monthly coming in versus only commission. Even though commission could be fantastic, you can make all you need in the first 6 months, but even that last 6 months, even if you're not making, even if you have all you need, you definitely feel like, oh, there's nothing coming in. You're just, the way I look at it when I think of a vacation is like, you know, say I've got 20 grand in the bank, it's like, okay, that makes me 6 months. If I take a vacation for a couple $1,000, now I only have 5 months. Now I got to work harder to get that back, you know, because you're just always commission based.
Right.
And, you know, without having that runway of nurturing leads and stuff like that. But
that's a really hard transition from any kind of a corporate environment to 100% commission. I have the luxury of that's all I knew. So it was sink or swim. And that's all I knew right out of school. So we've learned to raise our family that way. We've learned to budget, learned to adjust to the cyclical and seasonality of our business. But it doesn't mean that you master it. But I mean, we've learned to live within those boundaries, try to.
So do you know, typically real estate, you know, after Thanksgiving starts slowing down. You know, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, there's kind of like a spike. Little people are trying to move real quick. But, you know, going into December and through January, some of February, that's kind of like your slow time in real estate in Indiana.
It can be, but it's unpredictable. You know, some of our best months ever in the 30 years have been December and January. And, and again, there's no reason. It's just that those people lined up in November and December or October with needs. So that's where it lined up. So, you know, traditionally the warmer months are the busier months. Schools out, that kind of thing for family moves, but it's unpredictable. And maybe if I had a busy January, it's because I was doing something 90 days prior that really paid off. Because everything we do is about a 90-day lead time. It's, you know, we're not vacuum sales door to door where you can make a sale by knocking on a door. You may pick up a client by knocking on a door, but it's you know, on average, what you do this morning is going to take 90 days to pay off. So you always have to be thinking ahead by a quarter. You know, when we're in the dead of winter, I treat it like we're in spring. When we're in spring, we're in summer. And then things are going great in summer. You have to be ready for them to slow down, tick down just a little bit in the fall. So we're always 90 days ahead at least. Try to be.
Did you ever do door knocking? Was that ever part of your strategy?
I haven't done a lot of it. Probably the best. Not probably. It is the single best. You know, just face to face, whether that's at a network meeting or a front door or a shopping mall. Face to face meeting people is the best avenue there is. And
door to door is $0 for marketing. I mean, I guess theoretically, gas and time, but you know, theoretically, you could just walk around, knock on people's doors, and
one of the toughest things to do, likely, but one of the most productive, profitable.
I mean, I've personally never, outside of maybe Girl Scout cookies or something like that, I've never put any weight behind someone knocking on my door. So when I first got my license, or when I quit, I told my wife, I was like, you know, I'm just going to door knock and I'm going to talk to people at grocery stores, and I was like, someone's going to buy a house. I just got to talk to enough people. and that didn't last that long because I was door knocking, and it is defeating. You're just constantly. I mean, you do get better about talking about your, that 30-second elevator pitch or the 1 minute. I just, in today's day and age, and maybe I'm just completely wrong. Maybe I'm bad about it or bad at doing it. I don't feel like that's the best way to acquiesce clients. I feel like social media is such a better investment of your time, because I've had the personal experience. I love golf. I watch like YouTube golf and stuff. And Bryson DeChambeau, he played for the PGA Tour and then went to live, and he started a YouTube channel. And I was watching him, and it's like you feel like you know him just because you watch his YouTube videos. You get like an inside of like how he thinks on the golf course and stuff. And I went to a live tournament up in Chicago and saw him in person, and I was like, it felt like we were like friends. Like I wanted to like. I knew him. He had no idea, obviously, who I was. Sure. But it's just that weird kind of complex of like, I've seen you, I know you, I follow you. You have no idea who I am. But that's the same for business and for real estate, where if you're putting out content of just like, this is how I think, this is the way I explain terms, this is the way I explain, concepts.
This is who I am.
This is who I am. And if you, jive with that way of thinking, it's easier for you to become, to message me, hey, I'm thinking about looking at a house, whatever.
Well, in essence, that's a door knock.
Yeah.
Or you're in their living room.
Yep.
Exactly. If they're scrolling through it at their couch. Yeah. You're in their living room with them to some extent. So that's just a shift from the old door knock to a new door knock. You're still potentially figuratively getting inside that front door. Yep. But you're doing it with social media. And
the beautiful thing of it is it's 24/7, and it's you don't do it. It's not a direct 1-to-1. It's a 1 to 100,000, depending on how many people see it.
And it's wanted. It's not the knock on the door during an inopportune time. Yeah, you don't have to worry
kids
about
are screaming.
Bit by a dog, or something threatening at the front door.
Yeah,
so
that is
a little
true.
Safer.
It's definitely.
You do wonder, unfortunately, in this day and age, you wonder the safety of somebody door knocking.
Yep, definitely.
How you're going to be received.
Yep. Yeah. Do you guys do any like? Events? Do you host any events? I know you do like some neighborhood outreach and stuff like that. Do you go to, I know there's like 400 realtor golf outings in the summer. Do you put any weight behind those, or is that just kind of a fun way for realtors to say they're working and they're really just playing and hanging out,
Right. I attend more training and educational type things, Josh. I don't do as much of the social things, networking with agents. I want to be with my family and my friends, and I have great friends in real estate, but I'd say I shy away from the networking things among realtors. Nothing against them. They're not going to buy a home from me. So I don't need to hang out with them. As long as I'm keeping a good rapport through transactions and follow up and facilitating showings, that kind of thing. I think that's where your reputation with agents is important. But I don't do as much as I should. And there's a lot of good things out there, but I don't do as much as I should. Yeah. We like to host things as a team, and always could do more. I wish we had something every week, but we definitely have food trucks in. One of the most fun things we've done within the last year or so is we had sweet corn brought in, a truckload, a pickup load of sweet corn from a local farm, and a lot of people just had never bought fresh sweet corn, from a farmer's, from a Saturday morning market, versus what's fresh at the grocery store. So just different experiences like that are fun to be that conduit for somebody to experience something different or unique. Yeah. So those are fun for us. Yeah. When I first got my license, I went to a couple of those golf outings, and I was like, it's not benefiting my business at all. Sure. It was fun. I enjoy playing golf. It's a very slow round of golf. You've got the vendors there, but now being on the PM side of the property management side, we're going to start going to those again, just because, now I'm on the other side of like, I'm not going to play. I'm going to have a tent, and all I want to do, the more realtors I know is great for me, because realtors have investors. Right. But the only downside it is every single realtor knows that, a lender calls you because they want your business. A title company calls you because they want to let's go to coffee, let's go to lunch. They want it, they're trying to get your business. Right. Realtors are really the conduit for, reaching everybody. There's no one else in the middle of the transaction more than realtors are. As far as pushing, business every, 10 different directions. So And you touched on it earlier. It's providing things of value at your tent or at your phone call or your social media post. It's if you're just, hey, look at me, this is what I can do for you, that lands on deaf ears. But when you can truly bring value to your investors, to your owners, somebody that's considering investing, that's when that following happens naturally and it's appreciated versus forced of, here, I'm in your face because I want something from you. Kind of call it commission breath. It's,
commission breath.
Smell it a mile away. I mean, let's give folks things of value and be top of mind for when they do have a need, and then you're there to service it well. Yeah.
Do you work with a lot of investors looking for homes, or are you kind of focus on the primary home residence?
We never shy away from it. We get to help our client base find investment property, one-offs. But no, we typically don't work with larger investors, and it not for any reason. We've always been ultra retail. So it's not an expertise for me, but it's again something that I'm open to. It just hasn't been our focus. We've always been the retail folks coming to us or finding them and matching those buyer and seller needs, and we've enjoyed that. But no, I don't have a good reason why we haven't really done more investor type work. Yeah,
that's interesting how, and I don't know if it's the way I went about starting my business, if that's why, but probably 90% of my business is investor based, and it just kind of went that direction naturally. I was in the investor space before getting my license and had some, few contacts in there, but it kind of just happened naturally. So it's interesting that you're kind of not in that world, and I am, and it's just
flaw because it's productive. But you gravitate towards what you enjoy. There's so many avenues to succeed in real estate. I mean, you could focus on historic neighborhoods. You could focus on high-rise condo buildings. Agents make their entire living off of one facet of the business, open houses or new construction. The list goes on and on and on. And I think we were always just such retail based with friends and family and referrals that it stayed that way. But to your point, I mean, you work with an investor, that can mean 5, 10, 20 transactions at a time where the the retail buyer is a transaction or two and referrals. But no, I love the concept. It certainly multiplies your business faster.
How do you? I've always heard open houses. I mean, you mentioned that it's a great place to get new buyer leads. What is your thought on that? I've done open houses, and I don't think I've ever gotten a buyer lead from them. And maybe I didn't do them. Market them. There's strategies of okay, a week before you do your open house, you pass out flyers, you circle prospect the neighborhood. You do these certain steps, and I've never done those steps probably at all or perfectly. But I also feel like every time someone comes into an open house, they're like, oh yeah, I've got a realtor already. And I feel like in today's day and age, everyone's got a realtor, or their parents have one that they refer to, or their friends got. I feel like it's very rare where someone doesn't have, at the minimum, a referral from someone they trust.
And I've thought about that recently, and you're accurate. But so many times, I mean, you've probably, and again, you're not as old as me, so you haven't experienced this, but I bought insurance from somebody different 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I do have relationships, but you get to the point where you have multiple attorneys, multiple realtors, multiple doctors. So there's always time to capture somebody's need. And just be in the right place at the right time, when in reality maybe they would have gone back to somebody they used 5 or 10 years ago. So I appreciate the loyalty of clients to their agents or their vendors more than anything, mine included. But there's times where somebody just wants a change, or they say, hey, that person isn't as attentive to me as I need them to be, or I know they're in Florida for the winter, or they're going to reach out, and again, I don't always know why I've done it. It wasn't necessarily dissatisfaction, but there's been a different insurance agent in my life, or maybe I just transacted with them, and so I want to reciprocate. So now everybody knows a realtor or two, but it's not hard to find your way into somebody's mind share. So I never give up on somebody. We've transacted with people, helped people that I never thought we would, because they had a family member or whatever it is. And I always, again, I've been in it long enough, a lot of attrition. You've seen people get in and out of the business. So again, you have that opportunity to be, maybe you're in second position, but some life change puts you in first position. So it's always worth keeping in touch.
Yeah, that's interesting. It is a fluid business. It's fluid. That's what I was looking for. Affluent, whatever.
Yeah.
Fluid. That's the one thing I do love about real estate is that it is always changing, and you get to always learn something. Like you said, that it's every week is something different. And
every day.
if you could do it for 30 years and still be learning, I've never, the longest job I've ever held was the Army, and that was 6 years. Other than that, I'm definitely part of that younger generation where I worked here for a year. This other company offered me more money and better benefits. Like, why would I not go there? Right. Kind of thing. Versus like if you're willing to match them, like I'll stay. Or if like I don't enjoy this job, like why would I not go to the next thing that I enjoy more? But that's probably also some kind of personality. I'm very much like, I tell people I would have 15 family businesses if it wasn't for my wife telling me to stop doing that. Like you don't need to do another one. Just focus on what you're doing. And she's very supportive of everything all the endeavor. I mean, I've dropped money on like Amazon FBA, drop shipping type things, like wholesaling courses for real estate and different things where it didn't pan out, and I was like, I'm gonna go for this like crazy, and then you get busy doing other stuff. But I don't have an end in sight necessarily for real estate, and I think a lot of that is because you get to keep learning, and the creative thinking and the critical problem solving of the problems and how to fix all of them. That's interesting, and who knows what the Lord has in store. But
I feel like I've changed jobs in some sense. I've only been with 2 companies in 30 years. But every day, every month, every year is so different that it feels like I've had those changes built in.
Yep.
I've done business differently. So in essence, that was a company change or an employment change for me. There's months that you're unemployed.
That's true.
Weeks or months that there's no closings, you're unemployed. So I've been all those things. I feel like I've changed jobs, but it's always been real estate.
So you do have the team. You have the Lyons team, and it's you and your son. That's the extent of it, right?
It's our office manager Holly and Jonah.
Yep.
Yeah, my son.
Do you? At one point, I know you had some other agents, or at least Drew helped us with our house, but. Yeah. Was that something that you wanted to grow, like to a bigger team, or has it kind of just been, this is our brand, and if someone falls into it, or Jonah wanted to, be a part of the business, then what was your intention with that?
It ebbs and flows. The intention with Jonah, I always wanted to have, a little bit like you, it sounds like I always wanted to have a place where our kids could land if they needed something. Yeah. I didn't push them to get into real estate. I did push them to get their real estate license at a young age, just so they had it. Yeah. But I always, I changed directions and came out of school and wasn't planning on doing real estate. So I joined my parents' team. And so I'm the second, and Jonah's the third generation of our team.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Really started in '88. They were about 6 years ahead of me and needed help. And I needed a landing spot to start business life at 21. So really, I've always thought I wanted something for any of the 4 kids to pick up, whether it's a property management company or with Inside Out or whatever that would be. So I want that for them. I would like that for other people. So at times we have had agents. If an agent's better on our team than out on their own, great. If they grow to a place where they want to be out on their own, it cycles through that way. So lately, I would say we haven't been focused on supporting other agents. Always open to it, and again, I think it's the best way to grow and make a bigger impact and touch more people, help more people with their needs. But there's also times that you want to be lean and mean and just take care of us and not be distracted with other agents and So it ebbs and flows.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, I was like 2 years, I'm gonna start my own brokerage, and probably ignorantly. 2 years is not enough time to have the experience to start your own brokerage. And then I had a lot of older, wiser, my original brokerage guy, he was like, just do a team. Like, don't start a brokerage. And then Jim Wilson with Real, he was like, don't do a team. Like, don't do a brokerage. And maybe, I don't think that's just to keep me at the brokerage.
I don't think so.
Jim's not that type of guy. He's very, for you and your business. So he's more like, we've already got everything you need. Just do the team. Like, just get 1 or 2 people in it. And I don't even know if I want to do that at this point. It's just kind of, I think, like you said, it depends on the day. There's probably pros and cons. I've heard a lot of cons about having other agents a part of you. Sure. Them not just, having to babysit them and having to explain things when I could have just gone and got that client, serviced them, and made the commission by myself. You know, it's
Right.
just, it kind of depends on, I guess, what you want your business to look like and your day-to-day to look like, and if you want to manage people or if you wanted to do the real estate.
Right.
And I definitely would lean on the side of I'd rather just do the real estate versus manage that type of people.
Right. And that does
But-
hold you back to some degree. It changes how big the business can be, but it again, you get to structure it the way you want to structure it.
Yeah.
If you get to the point where you want to manage people, it certainly is a great tool for growth.
Yep. Well, awesome. We don't want to, I think it's already been like an hour.
Yeah, we talked away.
The time flies
It
when
does.
when you get to talk to people who are, you know, interesting to talk to and build business and everything. But we do have the 4 questions for Realtor of the Month.
Okay.
That we'll run through here real quickly, and then, you know, we'll post those and everything. But
Speed round.
Question number 1 is how long you been a realtor?
Yep, touched on that a lot.
Yep.
A lot. The 30 years.
30
went through
years.
The 2-week shot to get my license back in the summer of '94.
Yep.
Went back a year later, night classes, and got my broker's license back when you could be a realtor or a broker.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so they did change that then.
That changed. My concept of time is terrible. I don't remember when that was, but we all became brokers 10, 15 years ago.
Okay, yeah, because I've never known anything
licensing
different.
changed to where we were all brokers.
Gotcha.
So there were 2 different distinctions back then. You couldn't be your own brokerage if you didn't have that extra broker license.
Gotcha.
So it was a separate thing that you accomplished back
Okay,
then.
gotcha. Okay, and then question number 2: what do you enjoy the most about being a realtor?
You know, it's the solutions for people. It is having the contractor for the flooded basement. It's knowing the right buttons to push to get something to closing that's struggling. Just being the problem solver and the resource for people's moves and beyond, hopefully. But just being the connector and the solution, or a piece of the solution, not the only solution, but just a piece of it.
Yep, a trusted factor which people can.
Love it. And again, we touched on the good times, the bad times. I love the good times, obviously more than the bad times, but I do love it when we can bridge a gap for somebody
Sure.
that's sick or has lost a loved one and needs a change. That's when we're most honored, most flattered to serve is when somebody just truly has a need. It's wonderful when somebody's upgrading or downsizing or doing something for their own benefit, but when it's out of necessity, you know, I need to capture this equity to take care of my parents or something. You know, when there's something tugging at it, that's super rewarding.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Question number 3: what do you do to serve your clients that sets you apart from other realtors?
You know, I don't know what other agents do, so this is not to say that this isn't done at a high level everywhere else, but I think we're just really tenacious. We take the lead from its infant stage and take it all the way through to maturity, to closing and beyond. And one thing, we're just tenacious. I just don't hardly accept no for an answer.
Yeah.
We're going to make this work.
Yeah.
And when a transaction starts, stuff may fall apart for some reason. There's no reason for it to. Typically, we can usually find a solution if everybody will just put their heads together.
Yep.
And so I'm stubborn. I just don't say no. So
Yeah.
we've resurrected a lot of things that maybe should have failed, but they didn't, and we kept them together.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's awesome. And then what's the funniest thing that's happened during a showing? You got 30 years of backlog.
We've had some bloopers.
Yeah.
I'm sure I can't even think of all of them. I'm certainly locked out of houses, locked in houses, had doors closed that didn't know how to get out of. I've had a client fall through a ceiling. They were in the attic. They didn't. Let me rephrase that. They didn't fall all the way through. You know, I'm sitting downstairs thinking, boy, this may not be good. I hope he's really watching the rafters.
Yeah.
And
sure enough,
the next minute, the foot comes through.
That's funny.
He ended up buying the home, so we told him, he broke it. He bought it.
Yeah, you broke
so
it, you buy it.
Broke it, you bought it.
Yep.
So he did buy the house, but I've walked in and shown a home where there was a day sleeper and we weren't notified. Just a little bit of everything.
Yeah, any kind of situation over 30 years.
Home on the same street.
Yep.
I've had agents show our listings and been in the wrong home.
Yep.
Like, hey, this doesn't match the description. I'm like, it doesn't because you're in the wrong house.
Just let yourself into someone else's house there.
Yes, you did. So
yeah, that's funny.
I'd say that's probably some of the high points.
Someone coming through the drywall on the ceiling is definitely, it was
a beautiful home and a big chunk of plaster, an older broad ripple home, and that big chunk of plaster just crashed to the floor. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I would let my clients climb through the attic unless if I'm like, do you know what you're doing and the consequences of what you're may not do.
And
Not
this
everyone's
was
been
him.
an addict before.
Yeah, he was a crawl space addict, guy.
Oh, gotcha. There
I
you
knew
go.
it.
Yeah.
he knew what he was doing, but he
Just slipped
he
a step
missed.
and-
Yeah, it was a misstep for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm probably forgetting some of the best ones, but those are some of the high points.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. Well, I definitely appreciate you coming on and
Thanks for having me.
and sharing some knowledge and experience with us. It's always good to talk to people who've been doing it for a long time and definitely know more than I do. Sometimes I feel like I've been in this for a while. I've had a little piece of success. It's fun, and then you talk to someone who's been doing it for 30 years. Like, I don't even know how to do anything. It's 30 years is a long. It's literally a lifetime. I'm 20. Right. I'm 27.
Yeah.
That's a long runway, not just for experience, but just for the perseverance of, this is your business, and it's commendable. You've been working to support your family and 30 years of, like you said, tenacity and not quitting. Because if, what people I don't think understand and maybe there's an ignorance, maybe there's just, like you said at the beginning, there's nobody else behind you writing your checks, like it's you. And if you stop, the money stops, even if you have, Holly, who's been with you, has she been with you the whole time or most of the time?
No, about 8 years.
8 years. And or you have, a team, or, when you own the business, the buck stops with you,
Right.
It's that phrase is exactly what it sounds like. It's scary, at times, the downside is heavy, but there's also, a tremendous upside. But there's no, I'll just do an easy Friday. I'm just gonna, casually work and, scroll on my phone. And, I used to, when I was a W-2 worker or had a job, you've got 5 minutes until a meeting. You sit there on your phone and you just, waste time. You call somebody. Now it's like, I've got 5 minutes to answer emails. I got to catch up on these 15 text messages I haven't responded to. There's no stopping. And to do that for 30 years, it's definitely commendable. It's not an easy thing to do, so that's impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, the freedom of our business is what helps most people out of the business.
Yeah.
It's too free.
Yeah.
And no accountability. And,
Yep.
and it's a lonely business. If
Yeah.
you don't surround yourself with mentors and,
Yep.
and teammates and support systems of some kind,
Yeah.
it's a very lonely business to
Yeah.
be alone in.
Yeah.
But yeah, the freedom is what ushers people out. Unfortunately, it's...
That's a really good way to put it. I don't think I've ever heard someone put it that way. The freedom of the business is what pushes people out of the business.
That's what gets us out.
Yeah, it's the persistence. It's not, I'm going to go really hard for 1 year and, do $10 million in volume and then take a back seat. Like I'd rather do, 5 million years for 5 million in volume for 30 years versus, 10 million 1 year and 1 million the next year. And
yeah. And it's not a home run. It's not you do it every year.
Yep.
It's not one home run or one grand slam.
Consistency.
It's a lot of singles and doubles.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we definitely appreciate it. Do you have any last thoughts before we sign off here?
No, I hadn't prepared for last thoughts. So,
Yeah.
no, I appreciate you having me.
Yeah.
It's always good to share and,
Yeah.
and compare notes and learn. Again, whatever day this is.
Sure.
For me, year 30, you learn every day. So
yeah. Year 30, we may not even have realtors. Who knows? I don't know. We didn't talk about the lawsuit. I don't put a whole lot of weight behind it, but the world changes every month, every year. 30 years from now, realtors could be AI generated.
Yeah.
Show yourself the house, and I would never trust someone to just let themselves into my house.
Jump in an Uber
to
set the course. And
I think honestly, if nothing else, a commission is worth the thought of someone licensed and held accountable lawfully is worth having someone there that's licensed and held accountable with people going in your house. Because, even if you're the buyer agent, you are held accountable for stuff that happens throughout the transaction. So the thought of just like letting the people I've seen and the clients I've seen and, people in the area I'm selling my house, like, oh, just let anybody in. Like, I don't know. I think a commission's worth probably just someone standing there,
Right.
If that's all, people
all
think
it
we
is.
do, the security of your house is, that you're going to make $200,000 off of is worth it, because you don't want someone going in there and just stealing your stuff.
Right.
But
and I don't want a robot to operate on me. That may happen someday too.
Yeah.
But I hope we can keep doing the equivalent of surgeries and medicine for real estate. I don't see the human touch interaction going away.
Yeah, no, I hope not. I don't want that to be the case, but
If it is, we're in trouble.
If it is, we'll find something else to do. Yeah, we'll go. Yeah, we'll figure something else out. But
we'll build the technology that,
yeah,
that replaces.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I appreciate it. We'll sign off there, and thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.